welcome to the A Year in Marvel podcast, brought to you by Minorities Report. I'm Antonio Alcazar.
And I'm Technor.
Man, the penultimate episode.
61 minutes.
Was it that? Yeah, it was pretty long.
Yeah.
It felt pretty long.
It was well over 50 minutes, which was really shocking to me. You know, this show has been consistently like 45 minutes or longer every single episode.
Yeah.
Really building a nice overall story.
Yeah, every episode's been pretty tight with their allotment.
Yeah.
This episode, that definitely felt like it needed, for what it was doing,
Yes.
it needed a little bit more runtime.
Sure.
Not because anything was happening, but because so much of it was focused on character moments.
Sure.
That, like, you need character moments to just feel lived in.
Yeah.
You can't shoot or show a character moment like you shoot an action scene, because you have a lot of, like, quick stuff happening, and then that was the point. Whereas with character moments, especially when it's like really heart-to-heart moments, the point is to watch them be themselves for a moment and be able to empathize with them. So a lot of these scenes needed to be padded out a little bit because of what they were. You know?
Yeah.
You want to see Falcon contemplating, just kind of sitting there thinking about stuff, because that's what he's going through. Yeah. You can't really rush a scene like that. And so it needed to be a little bit more padded out, even though I feel like less happened in this episode.
I feel like this was definitely an episode needed because I think we've been really action-packed throughout the series.
Yeah.
And I think we needed to be brought back to what's really at stake going on here and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy... So how did you feel about the episode overall?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. But I enjoyed it in the way that I had been enjoying it before the last episode.
Okay.
You know? Because the last episode really, for me, was the big home run.
Yeah.
I feel like it was the edge of the hurricane.
Sure.
And right now we're in the eye of it, and then we're going to hit the hurricane again.
Interesting.
But, like, to me, if we're using this same hurricane analogy that I decided on suddenly, there was a tropical storm leading up to it.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. It was just stuff that was happening.
Yeah.
And then we hit the edge of the hurricane with last week's episode.
Yeah.
And then this episode is the eye of the storm, and then we're going to get back into the fucking thing. Because, like, I feel like with an episode like this, right, there was a lot of build-up, and then that build-up led to something, and now you get to see what the characters have become because of everything that's happened, and then the resolution of these new characters moving forward. I feel like that act structure is playing out very well.
Sure.
And I still feel like this episode was tight. I would even go as far as saying that this episode was better than the earlier stuff because now I care. And I was just like, okay, you know, this is back to an easier pace. But I care about these characters now, so let's see how they resolve now. So yeah, overall I liked it.
Interesting.
I didn't feel as balls to the walls as I felt with like the last episode, but I definitely liked it.
Knowing my usual taste when it comes to this type of stuff and my film tastes and things of that nature, it shouldn't be much of a surprise to anybody out there that I absolutely adored this episode, and it's one of my favorite things I've ever watched in Marvel. It was unbelievably touching to me in every way, and one of my favorite 50 minutes ever in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Sure. From the start, I want to go to a couple scenes. There was a scene where I was kind of I didn't like it at first. And it was a scene where they were fighting in the warehouse, very reminiscent, obviously, of Civil War, right? With Cap kind of being the part of Iron Man in this situation. And I mean, that fight scene was fucking outstanding. And then there got to a point where Falcon is trying to, like, reason with him, and he's like, dude, this isn't you, you know, this and that, you're better than this and whatnot. And he rips the wings off of him, and he's like, I'm Captain America, or, you know, whatever. And then he, like, tries to slam the shield on him, and he gets stopped by Bucky. And at first, I hated that scene. I was like, man, I really dislike this, because I felt like it'd be even better to have Walker be, like, this character who's, like, you know, kind of has this breakthrough of, like, oh, fuck, I have kind of gone too far. But him trying to kill Falcon is obviously a step past that.
Yeah.
But then in reflection, like, as I wrote that down as a note, actually, by the time I ended my note, I was like, holy fuck, I'm wrong. I rewatched the scene. It's amazing. And this is, Marvel is unbelievable at like taking scenes throughout the MCU and like reflecting them slightly to like give you kind of like last week where we had the shield with the blood on it.
Yeah.
This is the exact scene of Captain America defeating Iron Man and ripping his fucking thing apart so he can't use his machine anymore. And he takes the fucking shield, and just slams down the shield and whatnot. And he's
right
like,
on his thing.
Yeah. So it's like the exact same thing, except for Cap is a better person than Walker, so he's not going to take that final step of going too far. So I really loved that watching it the second time.
And not to cut you off, but like that is such a perfect reflection of what we were talking about last week.
Sure.
Where the idea behind John Walker is a worse man than Captain America put in the same position.
I hate saying that. And the reason I hate saying that is I think that's a misrepresentation of what this character is, because we discussed this a little bit more past the show, and I kind of want to come back to it. One of the biggest difference between Walker and Rogers is Walker is suffering from PTSD that he's had from his career in the military. And Steve Rogers never had to deal with that until after he was Captain America. And even then, he lost Bucky, and I'm going to just kind of guess that he's lost other people throughout. They don't really show that he's lost a lot of people throughout time other than Bucky and his, old lady.
Yeah, and he did a lot of warring, after he freed those guys from...
Yeah.
But
what are they called, those guys? They have like a name.
Yeah, I forgot.
I forgot what they're called.
But he goes under ice almost immediately after Bucky.
Right.
Because like Bucky falls off of the train.
Yeah.
And then he shows up to the place, fights the Red Skull.
Yeah.
And, gets on the plane and dives.
Absolutely.
So like it's not like he lost Bucky.
Yeah.
One serious loss of his life.
Right.
And then he goes under the ice for a while.
Yeah, and I find great exception with Walker being described as like a lesser man or a man who isn't Rogers' equal, because he has dealt with things in life that Rogers never had to deal with. And so he has baggage that Rogers didn't have before that he has carried over to becoming Captain America. That's got to be incredibly hard for him to deal with, especially like they add so much weight to that with like the family scene where he goes to talk to, his partner's family and everything. And it's like, that is, dude, I love everything with Walker, man. This episode.
I don't, and I'm not trying to disagree with you, actually.
Sure.
I think that, I think you're spot on.
Yeah.
That this is more of a human character.
Sure.
Walker is a real guy.
Right.
And you feel his real human mistakes.
Yeah.
Because we'd all make those mistakes.
Yeah.
Like when you are presented with the shitstorm that he's gone through,
right,
and the expectation he's expected to live up to, him losing it is very real. Yeah. There is nothing fake about that. Yeah. I think that he is an excellently written character.
Yeah.
The distinction I make is that Captain America is not real.
Right.
The Captain America is perfect.
Yeah.
Effectively, operatively perfect.
Right.
And like you see some cracks, but like not really. Like,
sure.
And so that's why I feel like I say lesser man, because Captain America is a superhero.
Yeah. It's funny because like Cap and like Superman, right, are like very similar type of characters. And there are a lot of people like myself who don't love that character because it's such an unrealistic expectation of a character.
Yeah.
And we flock more to characters like Thor, Iron Man, and Batman and stuff like, right. People who make mistakes. But then there's a flood of people who love that type of character.
Yeah.
And
I
maybe,
love that type of character. The thing that I like about Captain America,
but Captain America isn't your favorite of the Marvel characters, is he?
No. In fact, my favorite of the Marvel characters is a fundamentally broken one. It's Reed Richards.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right.
But like I love Captain America because he's such an ideal. There is something very attractive about wishing you were,
of course,
strong enough to not be corrupted
and to make the right choice,
and no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so Captain America as the ideal in this show,
sure,
because that's what he represents.
Yeah.
The American ideal, or the human ideal, really, is the tough juxtaposition for a human, for a man,
right,
a man with power, but a human trying to live up to a perfect ideal.
Right.
And so, like, I don't shit on Walker, and I've changed kind of my mind a little bit about him being villainous.
Yeah.
I think he is human. And I think that it is almost unfair watching him be human in a world of superheroes and superhero expectations. But the truth is, if you're going to be Captain America, and no one should be Captain America unless you were perfect, you must be perfect.
Yeah, and like I love to follow that up, like the A Few Good Men kind of speech that he gives was just fucking. I'm sure you haven't seen that movie, but it's just outstanding.
But I know the speech that you're talking about,
and he's
because I have seen the speech.
Exactly, like you weren't there. That whole speech in A Few Good Men, and like you weren't at that post, and you weren't in that situation. So how dare you question it or whatnot? Because the only reason you're here is because of people like me and whatnot, and
the tough decisions he made.
Right. Yeah. And I love that speech kind of given by Walker, because it is like a situation. But then even in like A Few Good Men, it's still like, okay, but they're still...
Yeah, okay, but you're still wrong.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. It's
standing outside of it,
yes,
you making human decisions aside, morally this was not the right decision.
Right. And, it's one of those times where he tries to kind of...
Because Walker was still wrong in a lot of the things that
he did. He still, killed that guy in front of everybody, and that's a fuck up, obviously.
And he tried to kill Falcon.
Well, and I think, yes. Okay, so that was the part where I think goes a little bit too far in his case, because I think like even in that stand down.
It speaks to maybe the PTSD that you were talking about.
In that stand down, Falcon is kind of like, dude, like, and Bucky's like, I understand what happened, man, but you have to give up that shield now. Like, it's like, I get it, and maybe we can work past this, but at this point, you gotta take what's coming, right?
You gotta take a second to breathe and realize the real repercussions.
Yeah. And then of course, Elaine showing up was really fucking. I love me some Elaine and her being brought. Because you have to always remember too. I have no knowledge of what's going on in any of these things going into them, because I don't. So I had no idea she was going to be in this or anything of that
Lady
nature.
Hydra. Are you excited about that?
Is that who that's supposed to be?
Yes, Lady Hydra.
Interesting.
Interesting. And whatever all the other fucking names.
Okay.
But yeah, she's Lady Hydra.
Okay.
So she's actually worked for S.H.I.E.L.D., for Hydra, and for another organization. She's like double crossed all of them,
Okay.
Like she's like this big player in the Marvel universe. So
is she the power broker then, or?
Oh, I didn't even consider that. I don't think so.
Really?
Maybe it might be.
Yeah,
if it turns out that that's the power broker, I'd be like, oh, okay, dope.
Yeah, because that she's got to be to me, she's got to be connected to the power broker, because she's like, oh, here's another spot for me to be able to get this
and also,
serum.
Exactly. She was looking for the serum, or the power broker was looking for the serum to create super soldiers.
Yeah.
Well, okay, there's a super solder here.
We can reverse engineer it, kind of like we did.
Or please be in my army.
Yeah, of course.
What I wanted was that.
Right. And then, obviously, while we're talking about Walker, the whole reforging a new shield is obviously
very
great,
interesting. For sure.
Definitely.
I mean, I want it to be broken instantly.
Yeah.
That's my hope. Because, I like the idea of him, I'm fucking Captain America. I'm going to show the world that I'm Captain America.
Yeah.
But I really do want that, sheet metal, to get ripped in half.
Sure.
That would be nice.
Interesting.
Because it's not vibranium.
Right.
The thing that made that shield do all of the wondrous things that it's done throughout time is that it's fucking vibranium.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, yeah. God,
don't you wish we kind of still had adamantium?
I
miss saying adamantium.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
That's so the one of the weirder things that happened from the Marvel universe was or the MCU is vibranium.
Right.
That's like vibranium.
Yeah, it sucks. So then
is Wolverine going to have a vibranium skeleton, you think? That'll be weird.
I don't know how they're going to approach that. Fuck. Yeah. I hope not.
I mean, it probably will be.
Yeah, probably. But so then we talk about a little bit about Falcon and whatnot, and actually, before we jump to Falcon, I want to kind of talk about Bucky.
Yeah.
Bucky's storyline here is great, and actually, I got to talk about all this together because I was listening to a podcast and they were talking. It has nothing to do with TV or anything like that. It has to do with actually toy collecting, and then they touched upon this, and then they talked about how it would be likely that Bucky would become the next Captain America. And man, this episode really, obviously that wasn't, I never thought that was going to happen. I didn't think he would become Captain America because I like the story of Sam becoming Captain America so much better.
Yeah.
And so this
because
is
if anyone can have those and maybe the follow through for unrealistic ideals, it would be Sam, for a couple of reasons. One, to kind of show the world that the people that he represents that are often discarded can step up to be the most like authentically American. Because that's a lot lot this show has been about, especially
of course. With, that's where we're going next, obviously.
And also the fact that he knew Captain America, worked with Captain America.
Yeah, he was his best friend.
It was his best friend.
Yeah.
And so if anybody can really step up to that, I'd say it was as far as a character arc goes, as far as what the narrative is asking for goes, I feel like Falcon fits perfectly there. Bucky, I feel like, is one, wouldn't want it. Two, is very morally compromised even now.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't feel like he feels the ideal.
Well, I think he kind of pointed out, dude, there's still part of you is still the Winter Soldier. You know, even if you've repressed it completely or whatnot, the fact that you're still having the nightmares and whatnot, there's still a part.
Steve Rogers doesn't have memories of murdering people in blood.
Right, absolutely. So I obviously that's the storyline we all want, and they've really done a great job with every episode building a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more with Sam being able to step into that role, and then we get the long training scene and whatnot, which was great. Although I was a little disappointed in it. In an MCU, a thing that loves going back to old stuff, I absolutely expected there to be a scene where he was running with his nephew. And he'd run past his nephew and say, on your left, right.
When he ran past his nephew and tapped him on the head, I thought he had said on your left, and then I rewinded and he didn't say
that. I know, he says something else, and I was just like, dude, this is where you fit on your left in this scene. That's the whole, whatever.
Yeah.
But that was
maybe
my one
that might have even been a little bit
too
much.
I don't know. I thought
I would have been like,
cute.
Okay.
This show in general has built up so much goodwill with me now that they could take a little bit of a bad step and I'd be okay with it,
course.
Because I've come to love both Sam and Bucky. Like, these two characters I absolutely love a lot now, man. These are characters I very much enjoy, which is funny because I wasn't that big of a fan of either one of these characters. I mean, I was a fan of Winter Soldier as a bad guy, but neither one of these characters were that interesting to me until this show.
They were great side characters.
Yes, exactly.
And now I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
They have won a ton of good faith for me too.
Yeah.
I really fundamentally think that where Falcon stands in his position as the Falcon is correct.
Sure.
And I almost even really love how he reacted to Isaiah when
we're going to get to that's going to be my next thing I want to talk about kind of deeply here.
Yeah.
Because obviously the Isaiah stuff is so fucking deep. And this is a personal hit on me, and I think a lot of African Americans out there in general. This scene was a very emotional scene because he comes to him and he talks to him about what he's gone through and whatnot, and Isaiah kind of lays out everything he's dealt with in the America that he knows, and he's like, only a damn, a brother without self-respect would pick up that shield or whatnot.
Would want to.
Right, exactly that. Yeah. And that plays so much to the African American experience that we deal with on a daily basis because of the history that America has handed to African Americans, the things that they've done to African Americans. A lot of times with dealing with service members for black service members, you kind of come to this point of should I be doing this often? Famously Muhammad Ali, whatnot, throughout history. And on the flip side, people the members of the Red Tails, they even kind of bring them up, the Tuskegee Airmen, the 762nd Tank Division, Harlem Hellfighters and whatnot. And these African Americans who fought and did these great things for this country, and then come back to shit like the Tulsa race riots and shit of that nature, or African MPs that weren't able to eat where fucking German POWs were able to eat, which is fucking insanity, of course. And then you come to this America doesn't give a fuck about me, and why should I be proud of this country?
Sure.
Why should I stand for this national anthem?
Fight to preserve
exactly
its structure and stuff.
Exactly that. And there's a struggle for especially younger African Americans to almost bear the brunt or bear the weight, I should say, of past generations, the transgressions against the past generations in the country. And should I continue to carry this weight, or should I discard this weight, learn from it, and then go forward with the promise of what America could be? Has times really changed? Has things gotten better? And I think you would, and Sam obviously is wrestling with this. Like, this is such a real emotion, though, to all of us that live in America. Like, sometimes you think about like how blacks were treated in the 70s, or even how blacks are treated often now, but that's only a portion of America to me. Like, I've questioned some of the things I've done for the country, but then I think to myself, well, is past experiences, should that be weight on me? Should I toss away the ideal of America or what America could be because of bad things America has done in the past? And I just personally, I don't think I can. Just in the same way, if a person makes a mistake or a person does bad things in their teens or in their 20s, should you hold that against them and refuse to allow that person back into your life, or to make up for what they did before in their 40s or in their 50s? And when do we stop, I guess? When do we say, okay, you know what? No, he makes a lot of good points about Steve. Both of them kind of make good points. Like, say, Steve didn't put you in that jail cell or whatnot. Obviously it was shitty Americans trying to,
I feel like that's the real, thing, that takeaway is that if there can be a thing that can be said about this from all perspectives,
sure, is
that there is a lot of bad actors. I don't want to apologize for this country. That's not what the intention of what I'm about to say is. The ideals that we tout as Americans are that individual sovereignty should be respected.
Yeah.
That individual freedoms should be respected, and that equality among all people should be respected. And from that, you have a basis for a lot of things. The reason that this country has such capitalistic ideals is because, given a level playing field, it should be a meritocracy where you are rewarded for your work.
Right.
But especially in the minority community, and especially, all minorities have had it pretty fucking bad, but especially the Black and African American community. Mm-hmm. That's never been a level playing field. It's always been more hurdles.
Right.
Sometimes fatal ones. Easily fatal ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what you are not doing as Captain America, and I feel like that's why he said, Steve Rogers didn't put you in that jail cell, is because what you are not doing as Captain America is being the agent for the United States. It is being the anthropomorphized ideals of America.
Yeah. Yes. Precisely. Like, I feel like you nail it with that comment right there, because it's not so much so. It's even like the comparison of that. I was trying to explain this to a friend of mine, that like every part of this show, it might feel like this complicated, huge show with all these different storylines, but every storyline plays into everything else, because, like you just point out, Captain America is not what America has done, but the ideals, these perfected America of what we supposed to believe in.
And he went against the government a couple of times,
And Walker, compared to, that's very a great comparison between those two, because the difference between Walker and Captain America is much like the difference between what we think we are in America, or what we want to be, and what we actually are, or what we've actually done. But it takes a lot to have that reflective moment and say, things are fucked up here.
Because you never want to admit proudly. You never want to
absolutely
admit.
Because I talked to somebody the other day who was like, there's no such thing as institutional racism or systemic racism or everything, because there's always these fools out there that want to believe that because they want to believe the country they live in is a fair country and they've gotten everything they've received by the hard work they personally have done, and the other people who have failed because they chose not to be better like they were better, and they do not want to believe that they had some sort of help up that other people did not get.
Especially if they had a hard time of it.
Right, yeah, absolutely. If they were like a poor... I think a lot of times when people, try to express this, and it often comes off wrong to people who don't really want to think about it long and hard, because these people hear something like white privilege and they automatically assume that means every white person is going to be a successful person. Yeah, that's not what that means.
You had it easy the whole time.
Right.
That's not what they're saying.
Absolutely.
You had a hard time. Black people, just because they're black, had it
harder. Exactly.
It's not that you didn't have a hard time.
I know this is not everybody that listens to us as a gamer by any means, but what I try to explain to people, and even then these people will fucking slap me in my face and be like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. That's all made up bullshit.
Yeah.
I say it like this. Look, dude, it's like we all roll that life, but the die that we roll is a D20. You need a 20 or better to have a successful life. And when you start off, there's a bunch of things that are going to give you bonuses to your fucking dice roll. But it's still a die roll. If you're a fucking man, you get +5. If you are a white person, you get +5. If you are, if you come from a middle rich family, you're another +5. At this point, you only need to really roll a 5. If you come from a middle class family, you're a +2. If you're a poor family, you're -3 or whatever the fuck it is, right? Because here's the thing. We're still all rolling this dice. It doesn't matter. You're still rolling that fucking die. And
there's bad results for everybody.
Absolutely.
There's worse results for some.
As you go through your life, you can manipulate this dice roll quite a bit. If you get into fucking heavy drugs, I'm sorry, you got a -5 to that fucking die roll. I'm not saying like all, weed smokers or some shit like that.
Yeah, and a lot of times the reason you get into some of that stuff is because of your bad rolls when you first started.
I'm just trying to say that as you process through your life, you can manipulate this result. If you go to school and you do the right things, and you don't get pregnant young, and you keep me, but it's harder to make those choices as you go through life if you do not have good examples in your life, and if you do not have somebody in your life like, look, hey man, you're going to fight hurdles every step of the way from certain things, being a woman, being a minority, etc.
Decision making does create hurdles.
Yes,
and it's not like we're saying, or anybody's saying, that you aren't responsible somehow for your failure or success.
Right.
But it is not solely based on that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of determining factors. A lot of what you didn't choose. What life you were born into, the economic situation you were born into, the color of skin you were born into. A lot of that stuff has a lot to do with whether or not you are going to have an easy time or a hard time succeeding, or how bad a time you'll have. Right. And there are plenty of people that have white privilege, whether they are white people or white passing people, that still struggle a fucking lot to get everything that they get.
Absolutely.
But being black in a country that was established primarily for a white experience makes it more difficult. There are still black successes, a lot of them.
Tons of them.
But there is...
And they're not just... What? Go ahead. And they're not just... I think a lot of times people, it's funny because like when a Jordan Peele movie comes out or something like that, a lot of times people get very offended, and I'm like, one of the things I love about Jordan Peele, and you know who else does this, but he does it more directed towards women, is Tyler Perry, okay? These films show African-American success that isn't like a baseball player or a football player or a rapper or whatever. It's like the same successes that you see in a white film by, Martin Scorsese or something like, like just a straight up businessman that like is a computer programmer or something of that nature, and it's like, there's plenty of that, but I think
there's plenty of that,
of course. But I think a lot of time what gets missed is like, in this country, if you're poor, you have a big negative on your die roll in your attempts to get out of. And unfortunately, because of what this country has done to African Americans through history, they have constantly kept them in that lower, and we can
up until such recent history too.
Right, absolutely.
And even up until now.
If you truly believe that this country is not a systemically racist country, okay. Instead of coming on and arguing or anything like that, do me a favor and look up the history of eminent domain, okay? If you can look at eminent domain, and especially from the end of the Civil War till about 1990 so, if you can read about that, learn about that, about how the freeway systems were made, about how things like that were created, come to the show and tell me that there's no such thing as systemic racism, I'll have a serious conversation with you at that point in time. But I want you to look at that first and then come and talk to us, because I don't want you coming and just running your mouth about, well, there's black community colleges, there's no white community colleges, or some stupid shit like that. I would love to have that conversation with you. If you truly believe that the white, like I saw somebody the other day that said now that the person that sees the most prejudice nowadays is the middle-aged white male. It's a beautiful opinion to have. I would just love to see some data that actually back that up. Either way.
Yeah, I do feel like this speaks very clearly about what this episode was about, which was, how do you stand up for a country that has not stood up for you?
Yeah, I think it's important too. One of the things that shouldn't be missed in the episode that I maybe did not express clearly enough was Sam's experience in America is different than Isaiah's experience in America. Mm-hmm. That's important. And importantly, does he continue to hold the weight that Isaiah has of America? And if he does, at what point can we truly change the country? Because if you just live like Isaiah, what's your choice then? Okay, I'm just going to live here and be forgotten, or I'm going to stand up and attempt to change this country, and I'm just as much as American as you are. And
and Falcon, I feel like represents in this show represents the last opportunity or the best opportunity for that to happen,
right?
Because the Flag Smashers and the other bad actors pushing against this, what they want ideally is for America not to exist anymore.
Sure.
They want, ideally, for the entirety of the system to be brought down, because it was always a bad system from the start.
Sure.
That's the mentality there. And so if America is to survive, it needs people like Falcon. Because without people like Falcon, who want to acknowledge the faults of a originally racist system and take out all the bad and fight for the good in it, preserve the good in it, if you don't have people like that, then people like the Flag Smashers will be doing the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Just tear it all down. Restart from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. And it's, there was...
if America doesn't embrace people like Falcon, it's not...
It's hard. It's funny, I watched the show, and I didn't even know about this, because I know a lot about American history and stuff like that, but I don't know everything by any means. And I watched a show called Perry Mason last year. I loved the show. It was another surprise. I liked an HBO show. And it was about like 1930s? San Francisco. Okay, so San Francisco has always historically been a pretty progressive place. And it had like a police officer, an African-American police officer in it, and he and this is historically true, a white person could be breaking the law in front of him and he could not arrest that white person, and he'd have to get a white cop to come arrest that white person, right? Like, this is a person literally charged with protecting the community. He would, as a cop, in theory, lay down his life to protect you or protect your property or whatnot, and this person doesn't even have the power to arrest a white person because it would be demeaning to them. So this country has gone a long way from, throughout time. And it would be foolish of me.
It's gone a long way.
Yes.
A long way from the time of like, I don't know.
Even the 70s.
Sure, but it has a long way to go. Of course.
I don't think anybody, I don't want to try to insinuate that it doesn't have a long way to go, but I think it's also bad to shoot your foot because you haven't won the race yet. I feel as though sometimes we can screw ourselves by being so upset with the now because it's not where it ideally could be. And I think another thing that's important to remember about America is that there have always been, even when there were people that locked Isaiah up, and this is always a retort to like H.P. Lovecraft. He was a racist, or Robert E. Howard, the guy who created Conan, he was a fucking racist. And then the people who enjoy those writers will often go, well, you have to understand, at the time it was. This was just the way it was at the time.
Yeah, for sure.
Bullshit, because these people corresponded with people who were appalled by these people's racism. So there's always been people throughout our history that question the bad things that happened in this country, that were like, you can't fucking do what you're doing out right there. We saw that with, Plot Against America. That was actually a little point that they made in Plot Against America. Like, this country has always had fundamentally decent people, the people that Captain America kind of represents, that have said, I live by these ideals of America, no matter what.
It would be nice if America did.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One other thing I wanted to bring up that I really loved, the scenes I really enjoyed, was the stuff with Sam finally just calling in favors, and him and his sister calling in favors, because that's another beautiful representation of the African American community. And the way, because again, we always see, or I should say a lot of people will see things in the news, like, and I'll see, well, they're doing it in their own community, this and that. And they kind of forget, just like you forget about how many very successful African Americans are, how tight a lot of the African American community is, and how helpful they are to each other, and how they will be there for their neighbors and help their neighbors come up and, do great things. And that's historically always, and was created because of how African Americans, their history in America, their time during segregation, and them kind of having to help out each other, and having these communities, and having these schools, and having these tight-knit people that would scratch each other's backs and look out for the community. I just thought that scene was great. I really liked that scene a lot. And then obviously Bucky shows up to help out and whatnot too. That was just a great, touching scene that just, another reminder. I just love stuff like this because it breaks through the mold, just like the Tyler Perry movies, just like the fucking Jordan Peele movies, and why they're important, and why I try to, like, when a person, shits on a Tyler Perry movie. If you didn't like the movie, I don't give a fuck if you like the movie or not. If you didn't like a Jordan Peele movie, I don't give a fuck. And you're not a racist because there's always this jump of like, well, you're a racist if you didn't like. That's not the point. The point I try to make is these are important stories to tell because it breaks the mold of what people stereotypically think often when they do not have experiences in these communities. So then, of course, we see also Falcon gets, or I'm not even going to call him Falcon anymore. Sam gets a box from Winter Soldier. What do you think's in that box?
More wings.
No way, dude.
Yeah.
Wings?
More wings, yeah.
He can't.
Cooler wings.
But he's not going to be Falcon anymore.
Yeah, he is. He's just going to be like the Captain America Falcon.
I hate
He's
that.
going to be the Stars and Stripes Falcon.
Yeah.
I don't think that he got the Stars and Stripes suit in that suit either, because why the fuck would the Wakandans make him a Stars and Stripes suit?
Man,
it might end up being that, but I just think it's going to be fancy wings.
They got me in to clap again. Another week in a row.
In the comics, the Black Panther, King T'Chaka, gave him, made him the hard light wings.
Oh, really?
And so like these might be, like Wakandan hard light wings, where he's just like.
Yeah, because he needs something to like
super goddamn hero. Now,
I think it's important to remember, like Walker was getting his ass whooped when he was a regular human in the Captain America suit, and Falcon is just a regular human as well. So it's important to remember that, like, he needs some kind of leg up. I did enjoy, because I was happy that Walker was putting it to your boy Bucky too, because we had that discussion last week, and I was like, dude, no, he was a fucking badass soldier.
Mind, I was just like, clearly Bucky's the strongest guy in the room.
Yeah.
That was not so
That
clear.
did not have what played out. But I mean, we saw the foundation for why that would be, because Walker was kind of a badass before he became a super soldier. So I don't know. I thought that was a funny scene. I noticed. Yeah, I think you're probably right. It's going to probably be some, because he's got to be Falcon and Captain America, right? So he's going to be.
He needs to be both.
Yeah.
And did you know that
I probably didn't, but
yeah. Did you know that the guy that's been helping him the whole time?
Yeah.
The
Air Force
Hispanic guy.
Yeah.
That guy in the comics is like a Falcon as well.
Oh, cool.
He's like I don't know, some kind of little Falcon, junior Falcon or
something. Was Anthony Mackie's character, was Sam supposed to be an Air Force
I have no
veteran? Because I always thought he was an Army veteran.
I can't remember.
Interesting.
They talk about it.
I don't like him being an Air Force veteran, because that's what Rhodes is too.
Sure.
So,
well, anyway, this other guy, because he keeps the wings, he's like, you can keep them. And I was
cool.
I'm just like, there is going to be like a little Falcon guy.
Shit, I like that, bro. I like that, man.
Like, yeah, that was funny.
I can't wait for this last episode. This is
one more episode, man. Friday.
Again, this is one of my favorite comic book things I've watched in a long time. Like, the last time I had something, I'm trying to remember, the last time I enjoyed something this much was almost certainly Watchmen on HBO. Mm-hmm. And that was definitely a different type of enjoyment, because every episode was like this episode for the most part when it came to Watchmen, where it just had so much to it besides action, so much story building to it. And I loved how all the parts started to come together for this episode. And I just can't imagine what's going to happen in the next episode. If I have one like little nitpick besides the no on your left, which I don't care about that much, is this end plot with the Flag Smashers feels like a very similar action point to like the Civil War attack on the Wakandan king when he was at the meeting for the UN or whatnot. Yeah. Like, it's a very similar type of thing where they're like at this meeting of the worlds of the state.
Remember that the best episode in WandaVision was the penultimate.
Yeah.
And then they shit the fucking bed on the last episode.
Yeah. But that was a show that I didn't like that much anyways. So.
I really liked it. But what I'm saying is this could turn into an end of Marvel movie explosion fest. So
a friend of mine said that. He's like, I really hope that it's not, I put on the suit, wham, bam, bam, and then that's how we end it. Yeah. And this is just my opinion, but while WandaVision went there, this show, to me, and maybe it's just because I resonate well with the characters that they presented, is so much heavier than WandaVision, with so much more poignant. Sure. Because WandaVision was really...
This is definitely talking about different stuff.
Yes. In my opinion, heavier societal issues. Whereas
the other stuff is like personal stuff.
Yes, yeah, of course.
Stuff, right. Shit.
But I mean...
That's important stuff.
I don't disagree. I just felt as though it felt a little flat for me. Like, I just didn't, and it might have just been me, right? Because other people enjoyed WandaVision a lot. I mean, one of the guys saw a post that was the greatest thing that MCU ever made, and that was a shocker for me. But either way, this is, I can't see them crash landing.
Well, we'll see. All right, everybody. That was this week's episode.
Side note, did you watch the Shang-Chi trailer?
Of course.
What'd you think of it?
I can't wait.
Okay, cool.
You know why? It looks like you didn't watch the conclusion.
This might surprise you, but I did not watch the Shang-Chi.
It looks like a super fun movie. Okay. I can't wait for it.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the MCU. Yeah. I want all of the fun things.
I'm there too now. I think I'm to the point where I can now say I might love the MCU, but we'll see.
What I want is more fun shit.
Yeah,
and when I watched the Shang-Chi trailer, I was just like, oh, this looks like more fun shit. So I'm down.
I'm worried.
Don't worry.
Maybe. Do I like fun shit? I'm not sure anymore.
I don't know,
because I love this, and I'm probably gonna. I think there's a good chance I might like Black Widow a lot too, because I think Black Widow will probably be more grounded,
deal with some of this stuff,
and deal with like family and stuff like that is going to be
and what it means to be an agent of the state.
Yeah, you know what? It's so disappointing that Black Widow did not come out before this, because I didn't know this, but somebody like in one of my threads said that Elaine is in that movie too.
Yeah, she's a character in that one. All right, everybody, this was this week's episode. Next week, we are going to be reviewing the final episode of this. So,
next week? I thought we were doing Lois and Superman next week.
We are not going to be doing Lois and Superman. Can you do me a favor? Can you not start doing wacky shit at the end of these episodes, please?